Oh, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Trippy Times. Today we have Wayne and Michelle from Michigan UFO Paranormal Podcast. I'm very excited to have them here. Michelle, it's nice to meet you. It's the first time I've actually spoke to you face to face, or you know, seen you face to face.
Yeah,
How
I
are y'all doing
usually have the
today?
camera off.
Yeah, thanks
So
for
how are
having us
y'all doing
on.
today? Oh, thank you. And yeah, I had a great time. I've been on y'all show twice now, and both times have been a blast. Really, both times flew by.
Yeah,
Um,
it was
so,
great having you on, man.
We go on to
but
talk for like an hour and then, 2.5 hours later.
yeah, definitely flies by. Yeah. So for the people that don't know, would you mind giving a quick introductory as to how y'all started doing this with your own podcast? That is.
Sure, Michelle, you want to start?
Well, it all started back in March of 2018 when we had our own experience just north of here in Canton, Michigan. Wayne and I were leaving late night bingo, I know, and heading home and saw one of the triangular crafts at the intersection of Ford Road into 75. And so once we made it home and Wayne made a report to MUFON, then that we honestly sat for probably about what a year. It wasn't until last year. We're coming up on our 1 year for our podcast.
Yeah, that's about right. We had this experience and we it was 2018 and we started the podcast like 2 years later. Yeah. Was it
Well,
or
we started the Facebook group to look
that was
for
pretty quick
we
though.
were looking for anybody in the area that saw what we did.
Yeah.
And then, we started to hear other people's stories. Hey Kelly, hey Spooky. And we didn't necessarily hear stories about that particular area and incident, but then we started hearing about stories north of here around Flint. And then last year when we started the podcast, we kind of started ours out thinking, okay, it was just going to be Wayne and I doing all of this research and then just kind of reporting it out and talking and sharing stories as we heard them. But then we kind of went in a different direction of actually getting folks on the show to interview, to talk about their experiences and the different things. And we've kind of went, all across the board, whether it be UFOs, whether it be, astrological readings, whether it be, the elongated skulls out of Peru and Bolivia, the Egyptian tours, and then obviously all of the different experiencers that we've talked to as well.
Yeah, it's been one crazy ride for this last year. When we finally had the inkling to start a podcast because of all the responses that we got on our Facebook group with our own sighting of the dreaded 300-foot side black triangle that was hovering above the road on March 9th, 2018. And we talked to so many people that were telling us all their experiences here in Michigan, and our Facebook group just continued to grow and grow and more stories. And it was just like, we need to, Michigan's a hotbed for a lot of UFOs and things that don't get talked about. And so we started kicking off our ideas. And yeah, last year around this time, like I think it was like February 28th or something like that, was our very first episode 0 that we did. And man, we've learned a lot from doing that first episode, and then people that we had on and talked and saw how bad, or I don't want to say bad, how far the rabbit hole really goes with this. And
Definitely.
yeah, and then you get the whole different levels of woo and all that, man. And it's holy crap. And as you know, a science teacher myself of about 6-7 years, and Michelle a 22-year veteran of middle school ELA and mythology, teaching mythology. And then we had this sighting, and it took us a while to process and figure out what was going on, and now we're just blown away. So
we've learned a lot, but still a lot to learn. So
a lot to
It's
learn.
never ending. Yeah. Like you said, with the rabbit hole, I feel like it's just never ending. Like when I first got into it, first it was just the UFOs, and then, it links to paranormal, and then you learn about cryptids, and then for me, like I've learned that psychics and more metaphysical phenomena was real, and it's just totally never ending, like you said. Um, the triangle that you mentioned, I remember hearing you say it was huge, like the size of like a Walmart. Is that true?
Yeah, that's like the closest I would be able
it
to describe it.
when it traveled towards 275 before banking to go south, it was coming over the IKEA store. And for anyone who knows that particular area, that IKEA is huge. So you had this particular triangular craft coming over that building, and us looking like, what is that traveling this way? And then it doing this really weird pivot to go south along 275, and then more, I would say, southwest in its travels, but it was right at the treetops. So it wasn't
Um,
super high in the sky. It was low enough that you could actually see, any the lights and any sort of like what looked like a skin.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So on the bottom and on the sides.
And the light that was hitting the bottom of this thing from like the street lights and stuff almost had like a mirage effect on this skin, like it was absorbing it, or if it was like heat coming off a blacktop. And this thing, it's a triangle, and it's coming like right at us, very, very slow, no sound, nothing. And then as we completed the on ramp, and I'm accelerating to get out of the area, and I'm coming around and then going to head south on the expressway, this thing, I know Michelle said it, it banked, but when I saw it from my perspective, it just was there, and it did this, and then went parallel to us, and we lost it over a copse of trees as we went down into a sound abatement. And then when we came out, it was gone. Right when we were expecting to see it right next to the expressway, it had just disappeared.
Yeah, because we had well, I had my window down listening for any sound.
Yep.
But of course, my phone was in my purse. The purse was on the floor. And that was like the last thing that I was thinking of was, I need to grab my phone and get some pictures or a video of this. It was more, just we need to get out of here.
yeah, shock
So,
factor. Yeah.
well, it was.
Totally.
Well, still, my original comment was, when did our military get this?
Yeah, and it was not as a science teacher who knows physics, and I don't know all physics, but I understand aerodynamics. I've been a pilot and all that stuff before, and it did not follow any natural laws of aerodynamics at all. There was no control surfaces on it. It was just a huge triangle, and I would compare it to when I saw one of the sides. I thought it was about the size of a football field. That's why I'm pretty confident in saying about 300 feet, per side. And probably had to be about 30 feet thick from what I could tell, because you could lose sight of it against the nighttime sky, and the light that was being absorbed, or that mirage effect, was going up the side of the thing. And then it didn't make it to the top. So you really couldn't tell like where the top of the triangle like started in the sky started, because it was dark and 2:30 in the morning when we saw that thing. And I just had an ominous feeling about it. It was fight or flight type of situation. I had no way of being able to fight this thing or whatever. I just knew I had very negative feeling about it. And I was like, man, what the hell is that thing? No sound, no
Yeah.
nothing. It's just hovering, or barely moving, and then it rotated, and that was all I had to see.
Wow. And so whenever you talk about it having this wavy surface, do you think it had like a cloak, like a cloaking type thing going on with it, or was it more just like kind of a
You
loop
know,
or something?
I don't know. I think maybe with the lights of the businesses in the streets below, because there's a hotel there, and then
Mhm.
there are a few restaurants, because it's a very heavily commercial area
Very heavy.
in that particular region. I mean, as far as houses, you might have some condos and apartments nearby, but that's all commercial zone.
Yeah, in that area, if I remember correctly, I think we had snow on the ground, so there was a like a high albedo, so there was a lot of reflectivity that was happening from the ground up from the street lights. Plus these globes, there was a single globe in each angle of the triangle, but it wasn't like emitting light like you would think like a spotlight. They just kind of glowed. It was bright, but it wasn't like a spotlight. It's really strange to try to describe, what it was, but there was no like center light in the middle. And that mirage or wavering effect, I mean, there's been all kinds of speculation that these things are manipulating gravity and things like that, and that might have been an effect of whatever the propulsion system or whatever it is that was inside that thing. But we found out later that we weren't the only ones to see this thing. It took a few, what was it, a few
Just
weeks or
not,
Right?
whatever.
well, not that particular one. We still have
Yeah,
not been able to track down a single person that saw it at 2:30 in the morning
yeah,
on
that at
March
that
9th,
time,
2018.
right?
Not a single soul, not through Facebook. And like I said, there were cars out. There were cars on 275. There were cars on Ford Road, but
It doesn't seem like anybody else saw it except her and
or
I.
we just haven't ran into the right people.
Right.
It
Or
is
they're
what I
not
think it
talking
stems
about
down
it.
to.
I mean, still, people don't talk about these things. And we did
Yeah.
hear from some people that saw something very similar to that was maybe about 30 miles away. And I think they said it was like a week later or something like that. But, nothing conclusive that we can say, aha, that was the same exact thing, just at a different time.
No,
So,
but it always seems to be March.
mhm.
March seems to be a really hot month.
For around Michigan, it does. March seems to be a hotbed of activity for these triangles, at least from the people that we've interviewed now on our show. So,
Well, it wasn't actually until speaking with you and like Chad Smith, I know y'all know him.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that Michigan was such a hotbed for UFO activity, and I've recently learned of actually it was just today I was looking up what do they call it, the Michigan Triangle, I believe.
oh yeah, in
Uh,
Lake Michigan. Yep.
yeah, have y'all had any guests on your show speak about that, or what are your opinions on that exactly?
No, no guests yet on the Lake Michigan one. I know that there's also activity talked about around Lake Erie, with the power plant, right out off
Mhm.
of, I think it's Route 2 in Ohio.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I've done a little bit of research into the Michigan Triangle, and it seems that there's a certain area of Lake Michigan where these accidents happen, kind of like the Bermuda Triangle. But then um, uh, I'm Chad Smith.
no, I'm Chad Smith.
We're
uh,
all Chad Smith.
but in 94, apparently there was, and I'm trying to find out more information about it, but there was a huge UFO, I guess what they call a flap. There was a lot of uh, UFO activity over Lake Michigan that could be observed from the west coast of Michigan. And, there have been some people that have talked about it. And I think a meteorologist came out about it and wrote an article years ago talking about how these objects appeared on his weather radar, and he saw these things and didn't know what they were. So, but as for the Michigan Triangle, there's all kinds of different things. Now there's the North American what do they call it? The North American, the Stonehenge that seems to be underwater on the bottom of Lake Michigan. And one of
Oh
the
yeah.
rocks, one of the rocks appears to have a carving of a mastodon or a woolly mammoth or something on it. And it's about, I think they said about 9 meters or so underwater. So about 20 feet, I guess.
A
So that's
mastodon?
very interesting. Yeah. hmm
I'm definitely looking that one up.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess they won't release where that is located, but they don't want people going out there and disturbing the site because they think it might be a Native American site, which they should protect it. But they also need to get more scientists out there to see what is this thing, what's going on. So,
Right.
so that could be at the center of this whole Michigan triangle thing, depending on where it's at.
Yeah. Let's see. Michigan Stonehenge in 2007 is when they discovered it.
Yeah.
Over 10,000 years old. Let's see. Found a rock carving of a mastodon at the underwater Stonehenge of Lake Michigan, and about 12 meters down.
Something before the last ice age, probably, or right after the ending of the last ice age. That's Enzo asking about that. Yeah, it would have to be after the ending of the last ice age, because we were, until that ice melted, we were under about 3 miles of ice here in Michigan. So in Lake Michigan, and things did not exist yet. It was still being cut by the movements of the glaciers. So
yeah, definitely something worth looking into.
It's
as far
now,
as the
I will say the standing stone, if you look at pictures of it, you look it up on Google and you can find images of it. The stones that are standing bottom of Lake Michigan is very featureless. I mean, and then all of a sudden you follow these on the sonar, you could follow the rocks. It's kind of like measured out. And then you get these standing rocks that are there. So how it got there or when it was built, I mean, the water levels would have had to been much lower for Native Americans to build anything there. And the, what is it? The mastodon could be one of those things where it's a pareidolia effect. You look at a cloud, you see, Jesus in the cloud or a lion or whatever. This could be the same thing. And it's like, once you see it, unfortunately, you can't unsee it. So, until they can get down there or they, do some better investigations. But, that's one of the most, well, there's all kinds of shipwrecks and stuff in Lake Michigan. It's a dangerous lake too. So especially in the early exploring years of Michigan, there's lots of ships that went down. So, and you can find out all kinds of information about those shipwrecks.
If you fly over it, you can see the shipwrecks.
Yeah, I mean,
we've gone clear.
We've gone in my father's plane flying from Traverse City, flying west over Lake Michigan, and you can see the shipwrecks that are shallow enough from the air. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah, like he said, that mastodon rock. If you want to see a mastodon, you'll see a mastodon on it.
Unfortunately.
So as far as I wanted to ask you this before I forgot. Experiencers that have come on you guys' show, do you what would you say are some of the most, I guess, compelling or fascinating people or cases that you've had come on there?
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be hard to pick.
I mean, Terry Lovelace was one of our very first guests, and we interviewed him before I read his book. I went into it cold. I didn't want to know anything about it. And when he started talking the triangle craft that him and his, camping buddy experienced and what happened to him, and then the materials inside of his legs and, the implants and stuff. I was like, what the hell? I'm glad we ran from the one we saw.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
stoked to carry on the more. Yeah, I guess that's kind of a hard question to really answer. Definitely all fascinating.
Well, yeah, we've had some, we've had a local guy on, Guy Merritt. We've had him on twice. And then we had some other people come on and we did a roundtable with Guy Merritt and found out that the night that he saw it was March 18th, 1994. Him and Ed, this guy Ed, a friend of the podcast now, hear from him quite a bit, saw the same exact triangle being chased by, fighters and stuff. He saw, Guy saw it in Flint hovering above the road, and it freaked him out. He said it was so close he could have hit it with a rock. And then, yeah, and then on the east side of the state, around Selfridge Air National Guard Base, Ed saw the same triangle, and it was heading. I want to say he said it was like heading north or northwest, and then F-16s from Selfridge Air National Guard were chasing it, and boom, it was gone. It took off in a blink of an eye.
Wow.
And then come to find out, him and Guy saw the same exact one, and they had happened to be in the same exact bar on toward the center of the state, like at different times. They don't know each other or anything. And because of our Facebook page and their experience and stuff, we got everybody together talking. They started talking to each other. And that was kind of the thing for us to really start our podcast and our Facebook group, was for people that had these experiences to get together and talk and see what would happen. So, if you want to hear Guys, I'll tell you the episode numbers because I don't have them memorized. But the very first time we had Guy Merritt on,
Okay.
Yeah,
the name sounds really familiar, actually.
he's been on a few.
Scrolling.
Yeah, he's been on a few other things, but we had him on episode 4. We called it the Triangles Playground, and it just blows you away. I mean, what he says, and then the things that happen to some of his coworkers and stuff, where 2 of these ladies that he worked with said they were abducted by
Wow.
that same craft, and one says that she became pregnant and then gave birth. That her account is up on the MUFON site, and so that
Wow.
really messed him up quite a bit. And
Yeah, I bet.
yeah, and then
Wow. Yeah,
let's
I
see.
think I heard you mention that. Sorry, I think I heard you
Yep.
mention the lady becoming pregnant on with Dave Scott. I think that's where I heard
Yeah.
the name, actually.
Is she, Wayne, is she the one who recently passed away too?
Yes, unfortunately, no. That was the one friend.
Oh,
The religion.
okay.
There was a
There were
very
2 ladies
religious-
involved.
right,
So,
and a very religious lady who would not speak anything of it. Everything was through the lens of the Bible. So, yeah, she was not going to have any part of it. And then Guy decided to look her up and see, if she would talk or anything at some point, and found out she had passed away. So, yeah, it was
Sorry to hear that, yeah.
yeah, it's a crazy. Man, I don't even know. When you start digging into this, and then you hear stories like that, and you see how things have affected people's lives, and we sit here and we talk about how our sighting has gotten us to this point right here, right now. It almost seems, unbelievable, not something we would ever think about. I mean, we're both educators, we're educated. She's got a master's degree, I have a bachelor's of science. I graduated top of my class. I'm a science guy, and here we go.
well, and
Now we're talking woo.
and now this has opened us up to, seeing, I don't know if we want to call them orbs, or,
Right.
in the sky, that there's like no explanation for them except for other people around the area seeing the same thing we are, just possibly in a different location. I think it's just all about being able to have the conversations and have the dialogue going with people without any judgments being placed.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that I think is the biggest reason why we, choose to do what we do.
Do
Yeah.
you? I want to ask y'all's opinion on something because maybe it's just me, but I really feel like as far as whether you're talking about UFO or something paranormal, um, paranormal in any sense, really, it seems like the sightings, everything, or at least it being spoken about openly, it's ramping up a lot here lately. And maybe that's just because people are, being willing to speak about it now. Um, Sorry about that. What are y'all's opinions on that? Do y'all
I think
feel like
it's
it's actually ramping up, sorry, or you think it's just people being more willing to speak about it?
I think that some people are becoming more willing to speak about it. I think that it's still given, depending on the person and the situation. Like in the building that I'm in, I know that there are a couple staff members that I can openly have a conversation with about what's going on with the podcast. One of them is part of the group. She'll always tell me, she's like, I believe, and I can have these conversations with her. However, if I try to mention anything about the podcast to anyone else, it's like the raise of an eyebrow. And it's like, oh, well, Michelle's full blown gone crazy. How much longer till she retires?
You're the crazy teacher now at the end of the hallway. Just leave her
Yeah,
alone till
I'm
she
good with that. I'm on
retires.
the other side of the
Oh,
building. Yeah,
Sh-
shut my
I
door and do what I do.
I tend to agree with Michelle, especially since the report came out in June that the government is taking this stuff seriously. And they really have been. Let's not kid anybody.
yeah.
The government does not like incursions into our airspace without proper permission. And, now I know pilots are they don't want to lose their jobs. They're very withheld about talking about this, but it does seem like that people are talking a little bit more. And now, is that why we're seeing an increase in things? Possibly. Or is there increased activity for, there's something else going on? I mean, you could make an argument for either one. Regardless, I'm
Well,
cool with it being talked about more and some of the stigma going away. As long as, and my science background kicks in, as long as we can keep the conversation, you know, kind of straight and narrow with what we know. We got to be careful with what we speculate. And there's a lot of fakes out there. And, and then people flying drones and these bright LED drones that do all these formation flyings and stuff. And then you got the space junk with like Elon Musk and, the, what is it, Skylink or Starlink that flies by
yeah.
and everybody thinks it's, a trail of UFOs. And it's like, well, kind of, but not really.
Well, and then how many of the doctored videos for TikTok too? So like I'll be
Yeah.
scrolling through the videos and I'll see something I'm like, that's actually kind of cool how they did that. And I'll send it over to Wayne. He'll be like, that's a fake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing about TikTok earlier. Actually, a lot of them, look really compelling. A lot of them, I think, could just be people wanting to get views because it seems like that's something that's getting big on TikTok now.
Mhm.
Is these real short UFO videos, and
Yeah.
sometimes the ones that seem too good to be true on TikTok, and that's the other thing. You don't know, maybe they actually are, but a lot of ones that if they seem way too good to be true, or like I kind of just I don't know.
The
It's
the
hard,
most
it's hard to tell.
I watched one earlier today. I didn't get the person's screen name, but it was the triangular craft and it had a beam coming from the center of it straight down.
Yeah.
And you could see this plane like coming into an airport. And I'm thinking to myself, is the plane going to get sucked up in the stream? I'm like, are we going to watch this? Are we going to watch this? And you see the plane like pass right behind it. I'm like, yeah, that's not
Yeah.
happening. So
Yeah.
I'm like, they would have rerouted air traffic if there was something within their flight path.
Well, Enzo says it right here.
Oh,
TikTok is bad with
it's like they
fakes.
would be
Yeah.
Yeah.
great for another like sequel of an Independence Day film.
Yeah.
So like some of these
Yeah.
TikTok people need to start pairing up with the people in Hollywood.
Well, the problem is, though, and this is where I see a big problem with this, is that the more people that fake these things and the better they get, the less people are going to, take anybody's story
Oh, it's the crying
seriously, or
wolf.
or the or the real pictures, right? It's like you get people that look at a TikTok video of a UFO and they're like, yeah, whatever, it's fake. And then you see the crap that the US government puts out from, infrared targeting pods and stuff on F-18s and F-16s and things like that are legit, and they don't look like that. You got to understand a sensor pod to be able to understand the data that it's collecting and what you're looking at, but it's either a black or a white blob that turns and then, takes off. And it's yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're fishing for clicks, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that delegitimizes the people that are out there trying to do the real work, and
Yeah, and it gives the skeptics more to be, more to be
absolutely.
skeptical about, more they look at it and they go, well, if this is fake, then they're obviously all fake. Their
That's it.
mindset, even though we know that's not the case.
No,
Michelle,
that
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, hold on a minute.
Oh,
Just one more
go
thing
ahead.
on the fake thing is
Mhm.
that I was of the idea not too long ago that the government is out there and they're trying to suppress a lot of the information, or at least be disinformation artists. And then some of the stuff I see on TikTok, and even some of the things I see in our own Facebook group and things, I go, okay, they could be disinformation, but honestly, with the way people are behaving with some of this stuff, the government doesn't need to have, you know, uh, misinformation artists, because people are doing it for them by putting
Yeah,
out the fake stuff or coming up with
exactly.
bogus stories. And it's like, you know, don't this is from my standpoint, it's serious. I didn't care for what I saw on that night, and we were very close to Metro Airport. We live right by it, Detroit Metro. And these things are coming into our airspace, and how many of these aircraft are having, near collisions with, a couple hundred people on them and things like that. So
Well, and it's changed our lives. I mean, no matter
Yeah,
where we go, if we go north, we're constantly keeping an eye on the skies. If we
mhm.
go out west, we're constantly keeping our eyes to the skies because, we just never know when is going to be the next time. Are we going to become these experiencers that we start to see more and more of these things?
yeah,
So,
and that kind of relates to what I was saying earlier about as so I'm getting tongue tied here. Is the activity increasing? Um, or maybe it's a combination of what we were saying earlier and people being more aware and looking at this stuff now that you've got people being more open about it, and also the fact that it's being taken seriously on the news and by our governments and stuff, and not just America but governments around the world. I feel like maybe people knowing nowadays an actual reality, maybe they're just looking at the skies a lot more, and maybe they've always been there just as much as they have now, or maybe they are increasing.
well, there's that, and you figure now you've got media going after some of the big names to discredit those people that have been talking about it, whether it be Tucker Carlson and more recently
Mhm.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
So, as far
yeah.
as
Joe Rogan thing that's kind of messed up, to be honest. I'm not completely up to date with all that, but I know I heard some things
yeah,
about
that could be a whole different,
yeah,
show for us.
Mm.
But it's if you discredit those names and you take them out of the mouths of people, it's a lot easier to silence folks. And for those who might just be coming on board, seeing the stuff on social media and TikTok, and then hearing an experiencer's story and going, I wonder what's, truly going on. So who knows?
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a
definitely.
combination of both, man. I think it's a combination of people are now feeling more empowered, I guess, to look for things and then when they see them, they're talking about them. So, you know, take it for what it is.
I completely agree. Michelle, you touched on this earlier. Um, well, both of y'all did. Your jobs being teachers.
Yes.
How would you? I told Wayne I was going to ask you this. Um, First off, I want to know, in general, about as far as like your teachers and your students, but in particular, what does I would say, like your principal, the principal, your upper management at the school, what do they think about this?
I know that my administrator knows that my husband's smirking. I know that my administrator knows that I have a podcast. I actually have the name of our podcast written on my whiteboard at the front of the room.
Oh
And
wow, that's
I
awesome.
drew like a little alien and the ship and everything with the beams because I've got some quirky kids and I teach a mythology class, so they're willing to look into anything that's like, dark and eerie. Um
Oh,
and
you teach
so
mythology. You said that's the actual subject. You said mythology.
one of the classes that I teach is mythology.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't
So
have that as an option when I was in school. Sorry, I didn't
no,
mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
it only came back about 3 years ago, and I'm actually the one who wrote the curriculum for it. So
Oh,
I
that's
teach
awesome.
Egyptian, Norse, and Greek and Roman.
See,
So
that's all stuff I love.
yeah. I love Egyptian mythology, and I can't dive as deep into it as I would like because it's only, oh, what is it? It's a 1 semester course. So, but anyhow, besides that, I mean, the teachers that I'm friends with at school, yeah, they know what the podcast is. They know that, Wayne and I have, at least a couple episodes a month that we're constantly talking about it. Now, as far as my principal, I know he has a podcast too.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah. So, but his is more like education related.
Okay.
I don't know if it has fully, if he has come to grasp with the fact that one of his English teachers has a UFO, even though I've even worn the shirt to school. The
Really?
kids think I'm cool. And
Seventh graders love it.
when I wear, the Michigan UFO stuff, but I don't know if he has fully grasped the fact that I am looking into something that has absolutely nothing to do with curriculum and that I'm talking on the airwaves about it. So, as far as, I'm not talking about the district that I work for. I mean, I've never said anything negative about them, so it's not like they can come after me unless they're, looking at, again, wow, Michelle's gone crazy. How much longer till she retires?
Yeah, and I don't mean to put you on the spot with that. I think it could be argued though, as far as you saying there's no relation, a lot of people think that there is like relations with the whole UFO mythology and actual mythology,
Well,
here on Earth.
with the mythology, yes, because, I could even go back into Egyptian mythology as far as the correlation with the stars. But I keep it out of the curriculum, but I do have it up there on
Okay.
the board because I've had kids ask me, "What's the name of your podcast?" And I know I've got 8th grade students that actually do listen to the show.
Hmm.
So, because they'll come by my room and they'll pull it up on Spotify or iTunes, and I'll hear, like, the music intro in my voice, and they're like, "Got your latest episode," and they'll
Yeah.
just walk by smiling, and it's like, well, I've got a,
Well, that's
former
awesome.
student and happy listener.
Yeah, I would
Wayne,
say
would you say? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I haven't had any real negative experiences at work, especially with my principal. He kind of you know, he talks to me about it and things like that, but for him it's one of those fringe topics. He doesn't care one way or the other. But on the flip side of that, I've had teachers come to me and come running into my room, come sit down next to my desk and go, "Hey, Braden, I saw something." Like, really, what? You know? And they're telling me about this stuff. I'm like, type that up, send it to us, and we'll read it on the podcast and see if anybody responds, writes us back and see if anybody saw the same thing you did. And as soon as we started, it was pretty much as soon as this year started and we started hearing these stories about orbs. Then we go outside our front door and we're standing in our driveway and she calls me out there and we see an orb, off in the west sky, zipping around back and forth, stopping up, down. And it was far away. So if this thing was and then other people in the town about 15 miles from us, maybe, right?
Southgate and Hamtramck.
Well, but then we had Ipsy out west.
Yes, just west of
and
us.
Our Facebook started saying, "Hey, is anybody seeing this? And we were out there snapping pictures of it. And yeah, there were these orbs, and it was interesting because now when you and like Chris Bledsoe down there are showing videos of the orbs you guys are seeing, it's like the ones we're seeing up here.
Yeah, and seeing it with your own eyes is, I know y'all know that it's totally different, than seeing it on camera whenever you actually see it. And you actually kind of answered my next question. I was going to say, have you had any further sightings past the triangle? But so orbs, how often have you seen those orbs that you're speaking of?
I would say 2 to 3 times now.
Yeah, probably about 2 to 3 times. Yeah. Yeah.
It seems
and
like
right now, here in Michigan right now, this is the worst time of year because the sky is nothing but gray and, we get very limited amounts of sun
and we're at the tail end of a snowstorm too.
Yeah,
so we had a snowstorm move in Tuesday night. So everything has been gray cloud cover.
Yeah. If there's something going on up above those clouds, we don't see it.
And being by the airport. So, I mean, we've got the illumination of the sky from the airport, from the runway. So, I mean, looking off to the east, we'll never see, anything out that way.
Mm-hmm.
Our luck would be more looking west. But again, you've got, street lights or people's, porch
we got
lights.
A lot of light pollution here. So, unfortunately. So, whatever it is that we saw with those orbs, they had to be bright. They had to be extremely bright for us to see them. And then for us to get notifications from people in Ypsilanti, which is about 15, 20 miles from us, going, you guys seeing this? Is anybody else seeing this? Yeah, we're seeing it. We even put pictures up of it. Michelle snapped some pictures on her phone the best as she could, and we put it up, and people were like, yeah, that's what we saw. So,
It seems like the orbs are getting a lot more frequent, or it seems like a hot topic here lately. And I've spoken to a couple other people about that, and I'm not the only one that's, I guess, made that, or took notice of that. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned earlier something about native tribes around that area. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Is it Dalway? It's the name of a tribe. I think that's from Michigan. I can't pronounce it right now.
Well,
I
up
believe it's
north.
Dogman.
Oh yeah, up north toward Traverse City and stuff. We have the Abdawa. They're called the Abdawa tribe. Mm-hmm. And they have at least they have a kind of a dogman. I guess what did you call him? Skin walker type of an mythology. And that's where the whole Michigan Dogman thing kind of started, with a couple loggers in the late 1800s that they got chased out of the woods by this thing that they said was a biped, dog, canine. And that started the whole dog. And then, and see, that's one of those things, Josh, you were just talking about. People started calling in. One person called into a radio show in the 70s and said that they had seen this thing, and then or it was the late 60s, and then call after call. Once one person heard somebody's story about seeing this dog man, then their phones were just ringing off the hook with people telling stories about seeing this dog creature on two legs.
And you figure the Abdawa tribe is up around Petoskey?
Yeah,
Yeah, Petoskey, Charlevoix, Traverse City area.
Yeah, they're a pretty large tribe.
Yeah, so you're talking about the northwest part of the state, the lower part, not up into the upper peninsula.
Hi, Casey.
Well, and it's funny you said something about skinwalkers. Well, I've asked a couple people this. I want to ask y'all's opinion. Um, Skinwalkers and dogmen. Do you think there could be a relation? You think it could be the same thing, or maybe a different type of species? Or what's your opinion on that?
I think they're probably two different things. That's where I'm at right now with it. I mean,
what would be your opinion on the separation? What separates them? One maybe more supernatural, and the other one more, physical animal.
The description, I guess. It could be two different species of things. I think that a Bigfoot Sasquatch type of deal would be more of a large primate or some kind of a missing link type of a creature, whereas Dogman might be more supernatural. And we interviewed a friend of the podcast, Burton from Lost in the Dark podcast, and he told us his Dogman story when he was a young boy, that he was in the what do I want to say, like the backyard of his grandfather's house, and a deer jumped out on this pathway out of the woods from, acting like it was being chased. It jumped out, looked at him as a little boy. He was like 5 or 6 years old and took off running. And then this very large two-legged dog creature jumped out after it and then looked at him, looked at the boy and Burton and turned and went after the deer. So,
Wow.
I think they're two different things. What exactly they are and what goes on, I don't,
Well,
I'm
you
not
figure
really
that
sure.
skinwalkers derive from Native American mythology. So I don't know if it's something to consider that skinwalkers may be more of a spiritual being. So is the only thing that I could,
Well, I know
as far as
skinwalkers out in the Skinwalker Ranch area have a very dark history of what they are and how they became what they were and stuff. The Ute tribe out there, or the Utes out there, and the Skinwalker legend, they were, you got to dig into it to
Right?
see.
well,
It was a curse,
spiritual
right?
doesn't mean necessarily
Yeah.
good spiritual either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It was more of a curse thing than. So, when I saw somebody had mentioned that, skinwalkers are totally different from dogman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I do too. I used to think that they could have been the same thing, but after looking into it a lot further, and like you said, with the Ute curse and everything, but I've heard a couple of different opinions on it, so I just want to ask what your opinion on it was.
Yep.
I was since we're on that topic, and I want to say that first off, the dogmen, well, cryptids as a whole, I mean, I'd heard of like, Sasquatch, of course, and I didn't know until here recently that Sasquatch was actually something that was also deep in Native American, cultures. Um, well, as far as cryptids though and dogmen, I've not really heard about much of any of that, other than a couple of them, like the Mothman and stuff like that, until I started getting into all this ufology stuff. Do you think that actually I have a couple of questions here, but first I want to ask you, as far as things paranormal, anything, whether you're speaking of something like apparitions or spirits or cryptid and ufology, do you think that there is a connection between this, like all as a whole,
Mhm.
ufology and the paranormal? Do you think that, I mean, even if they're separate, do you think that there is some kind of connective thread between, those two phenomena?
Man, that's a good question. I would think it's all paranormal. I think there's different realms of understanding and perception on this planet, and probably throughout the universe, things that we don't ever see and things like that that are happening. I would say, just to be on the safe side right now, I would say, yeah, it's all paranormal, but
Right.
then what is normal? Then you got to ask yourself,
Mhm.
what is normal, right? As soon as we blow the lid off of the government has captured or, found wreckage of and pieces of UFOs, and they've been backwards engineering it. Once we actually know that for certain and it's exposed to us, now that becomes normal. So, who's to say? I think it is, I think it's, I don't know if it's related, because I know there's so many theories out there, like about Bigfoot. Even Dave Scott was talking about it. Is it an interdimensional creature? Are these things from different dimensions? And then you got to ask yourself, well, is things being from a different dimension just a cop out because you don't have an answer? It
Yeah.
seems like, it's things are from a different dimension when somebody doesn't have a good answer, instead of just saying, I don't know, and
Right.
how would these things travel between these different dimensions? Is it technology? Is it magic? What are the mechanisms that would allow these creatures to move from their universe to ours and infringe upon ours and things like that? So, I have a lot of questions about, the mechanism of that, but I do think that there's other stuff out there, man. With just what Michelle and I saw, and then the stories we've heard, yeah, they're anecdotal and stuff. But when I have to stop my podcast because my guests are having a serious breakdown and I got to pause it, and everybody's got
Mhm.
to take a break because the conversation is so intense, something happened,
Yeah.
you
Um,
know? So
definitely.
it's, I don't know.
I know exactly what you're saying.
I'm one of those guys, I don't know. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know. I'm still trying to find out. I don't know. Michelle may have a totally different opinion on it, whether things are related or not.
Well, I
Sorry, go
well,
ahead.
I think for anyone who's even looking into any of this, you've got to be open, completely open to what you may or may not hear. So, or what you may or may not witness. It's kind of like when they say that that what are like children are open portals as far as when it comes to ghosts and anything paranormal, that often children will see and hear these apparitions, while adults, as they've grown up and their minds have kind of closed off, they don't necessarily experience the same thing that someone who is innocent and open-minded and not out for judgment of anything.
Right.
So,
Right. Excuse me. Well, Michelle, what you were just saying, that's right on topic with a friend and I were just speaking about, as far as, some kids being, more prone to having these types of experiences, and we were speaking about, perhaps there's this type of, maybe a neuroplasticity. I'm sure you're aware of what that is. Maybe there's something along the lines of that, and maybe these phenomena are kind of the equivalent to seeing a spectrum of light that maybe we're not all able to see, or maybe an experience like a near death experience or something like that that can happen, and it's not so much that it's something that's there that everybody can't see, or that it's not so much that there's something there that is only there for one person. Maybe it's just something. I'm getting a little tongue tied here, but you
well,
get
and
where
it
I'm
may
going
not
with
be
it, right?
necessarily be something that they can't see. It might be something that they don't want to see. So, and if
Right.
they don't want to see it, then that's going to cloud all any sort of judgments and visions for anything that they may encounter.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, 100%, man. That's, you look at our societies as of the last like couple thousand years and what people have been you know, in this materialistic society where our brains have basically been closed down to the supernatural and the spiritual. And you can go with that, wherever you want with that idea, whether it's spiritual and religion is, doing this or that, or materialism is doing this or that. But I think there's definitely been like a reconstruction of our brain to function more with the material things in a mechanized world, and take the spirituality and the supernatural and the mythology, the things that I think that make humans interesting. They want to get rid of that.
Right.
Those have been kind of bred out of us. Don't be so spiritual, the whatever, what all that matters is what's here and now and what you have. Well, if you're putting up those barriers, and generations before you have put up those barriers, then you're going to be very resistant to understanding some of this stuff that, we can't comprehend.
Well, and I think it's, people might be looking for the bigger stuff in front of them because they've been so sensitized to, what they're shown in media or what they're shown in videos. It's like, in order for me to say that I've seen an apparition or something ghostly related, oh, it's got to be like this movie that I saw, or, it's got to be like this story that I heard, when it may not be as drastic as, something from like the Conjuring or any, what I'm talking about, like any horror film, that it might be something more sleight at hand and a lot more subtle and still be an experience to someone, but they miss it because they're looking for something on a grander scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And that's kind of why anytime I hear somebody speaking about anything paranormal and they say that they know for a fact this is what this is, those are the ones that I'm not going to say I dismiss anybody, because I try to be open to everybody, but also a little skeptical about everything, even though I've had experiences myself. You got to be a little skeptical with everybody, just because nobody has all these answers. And even though y'all know that I've experienced orbs of light and stuff, I'm not going to tell anybody I know 100%, what this phenomenon is. Now, I'll tell you, I know it's real without a doubt because I've seen it with my eyes, but I'm not going to say, I know that's what this is. I'm not going to sit here and say I know that this is a being from, the Palladian, a Palladian or something like that. Somebody was just telling me this the other day, that these light beings, they're all from the I can never say that right. Sorry, Palladians. You don't know what I'm going to say. Yes, exactly.
The seven
maybe
sisters.
That is what. Yeah, yes, exactly. Maybe that is what they are, but I don't know that 100%.
So how do they know that?
Well, and it's the same thing with us, and it's the same thing with us too, seeing the triangular craft in the sky. Anybody, family, friend, coworker, whatever, can raise an eyebrow and go, "Are you sure you saw what you saw?" And I can say that I saw a damn triangle in the sky at 2:30 in the morning on March 9th, 2018. Wasn't drunk, completely sober, on coffee, driving home. And it had been nothing that I had ever seen in my 47 years on this planet.
And I was a witness. And I was driving, right? And man, there's a lot. You said a lot there, man. And it's one of those things where it's like, is it a cool story, bro? Or do you have other kind of data points? Like, Josh, you got videos, right? I mean, you got videos of these orbs. So so it's something real. There's something there that you're picking up with your cell phone camera or whatever camera you happen to be using at the time. So you're picking something up, and they're not doing aircraft things. That's for sure. I've watched them, fading out of existence. No, airplanes don't do that. Just like giant 300-foot triangles don't sit above the road and rotate with no sound at all. These are the things that I mean, what What are
And
you
like
gonna
what you said,
do?
witnesses. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like what you said. These aren't just videos I record. I have witnesses with me, and that's the reason I'll tell anybody I know for a fact it's real. I just don't jump to conclusions and say I know that's exactly what this is. And I don't mean to like offend anybody, but it's those people that try to say they know 100%, even whenever it comes to something supernatural, paranormal, or however you want to say. I don't think anybody knows exactly what this is. I don't know if we ever will know. That's
yeah,
what we're here on this podcast doing. It's trying to
Well, no, and
give you
that's why
some
we've got
pieces of
people who
together.
investigate things.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
So
mean,
that
even
it's part of the investigative process.
in the arena of UFOs and UAPs, I mean, that's what the government wants to know. I mean,
yeah,
what are these things? What is their purpose? They're messing with our nuclear missile launch sites way all the way back into the 50s and 60s. They've messed around with bases. They've chased airplanes and been chased by our fighter jets. Some people even say that some of the fighter jets were you know collided with one or knocked out of the sky and crashed into like Lake Huron or whatever. There's a famous story from the 50s, something I want to talk about on one of our next shows coming up. And man, it's I don't know. I look back and Michelle teaching mythology, and you think about the myths that our ancestors and lots of our ancestors grew up with, the numerology and the understanding that our ancestors had of natural forces, and even things that we don't understand today, they seem to have known about. Stonehenge being a very complex calendar, right? The Mayan temples that show the Quetzalcoatl, thing on the
yeah,
summer solstices and equinoxes and all that. It's moving up and down, the shadows moving up and down the temples. And Angkor Wat with on the equinoxes, the sun sets right at the top of these you know temples that look like a pine cone. Well, what does that even mean? Why'd they design it like that? Well, there's some people
yeah.
that say that refers to the pineal gland in the brain, and the red dot in some religions, where
The
they have
third
the
eye.
red dot. That's
The
the third
Hindu.
eye,
Hmm.
right? These things have gone on way before we had this technology over the last 100 years. And I think that's still in us. And there's a certain understanding. Like, I love numbers and geometry. Michelle teases me about it all the time because we're watching like Manifest, and I see the address of one of the
It's like it's
characters.
414. It adds to 9.
You're right. It's like,
I started doing that too,
yeah. It's like,
just here recently.
what are these people in Hollywood trying to tell us? I mean, Illuminati symbols at halftime shows, and, you know, people doing the little
It's
triangle
like
symbols and everything else, right? There's
watch
something there,
watch
man.
this. Hey Wayne, 828. That equals what?
9.
No, 828 is
Eight
18.
is
Divided by
18.
2
No.
is 9.
No.
I started doing that myself.
Flight 828. 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 8 is 18. 1 and 8 is 9.
Yeah.
All things are connected. That's what they say in the show constantly. All things are connected. It's magical.
That's true.
Yeah, we
Everything is
just got through
connected.
the
Yeah.
episodes where they were connecting Egyptian mythology to it, and I'm like sitting there like
Yeah.
listening close and analyzing everything that they say on the show.
Wow.
Well, I mean, think about it like this, man. I mean, how many different mythologies are out there that talk about there being a great flood that destroyed most of humans? Over
Beings coming from the
150.
sky, great floods. Yeah. I was just
Yeah.
speaking about that with somebody. Why are there these key similarities in every single culture around the world? And not just that, but these cultures that should have no contact with each other whatsoever. Like, why are they all building pyramids? Why do they all speak of a flood? Why do they always talk about beings coming from the sky? Whether you buy into it all or not, or whether you think it's all made up, you can't ignore the fact that there are these similarities that link them all together. And
I think
like what you're saying with the pineal gland and stuff, there's all these different cultures, separate areas of the world. they all speak about some kind of third eye, type, thing.
Sure.
There's just the key similarities, like the Great Flood, that you spoke of. I think that's a huge one.
Oh, that's
Exactly.
huge. And Graham Hancock is perfect for saying this, that we are definitely a species with amnesia.
Oh yeah,
There
for
was
sure.
there was advanced civilization here before the ending of the last ice age, and then rapidly and incredibly the last ice age came to an end about 12,500 years ago, which raised all the sea levels by 5 or about 400 feet. And I can confirm that as an earth and space science guy. That's what I teach. That's what I've lived for the last, I don't know, 15 years going to school and things. That's absolutely 100% fact. They don't know why
Oh,
it
yeah.
happened,
I mean, there's
right?
water erosion on the Sphinx. I'm sure you've heard about that.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
The
yeah,
last time when it
Sphinx is
rained, when was the last time it rained in Egypt to cause water
right.
erosion and limestone?
Yeah,
Thousands
exactly.
of years. So, yeah, it's
Yeah, I had a,
we
sorry, I
haven't
was
this
just
is
done.
where I want to have Gemma come on. This is where I'd want to have Gemma come on and confirm that we have a magical or a spiritual nature to humans, and maybe that's why ET is so, or whatever these beings are so interested in things going on here on Earth. And we've as somebody said it, was it Mid South? We've been programmed to forget about all that is natural and supernatural. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, actually, Seb taught my move on investigator. She was just on UFO Garage and a couple other shows here recently. I've been seeing her pop up. She has a strong belief that this whole ET phenomena is specifically, or maybe not completely, but a big part of it is to try to, wake us back up to our spiritual nature, like what you're saying. And I think it's highly possible. Um, yeah, God, we jumped on a lot of topics there. um, I mean,
Eh,
that's kind of talk I love though.
yep.
There was something, God, there's something I was meaning to bring up to you guys before we got on that. Oh yeah, since we were talking about everything we were just saying as far as paranormal, and I want to say I use the word spiritual. Some people get turned off by that. I really don't care. That's what the way I look at it. But for the people that don't like to use that word, in my mind, I kind of look at spiritual and scientific. I try to bridge the two together. I think spirit is energy. Everything is energy. Spooky Morales said earlier in the chat that life is light and light is life. I completely agree. Just everything is energy, and I know with y'all both being teachers, y'all are very aware that everything is energy. Um, Sorry, I kind of bounced around there. I wanted to ask though, I know that y'all have had your sightings, but as far as more like what people might consider paranormal experiences, have y'all had anything that you'd like to share, be comfortable sharing?
Um, I haven't. Wayne has.
Yeah. I've had a few paranormal experiences and that I cannot explain. And before I was even into any of this stuff, I mean, I back in years ago, I knew of like, sci-fi channel ghost hunters and would watch it, just kind of out of interest, but nothing I was ever really interested in or anything like that. But one of the experiences I had was my mother had died in, I think it was February of 1999. And and so she had passed away of lung cancer. And she had smoked since she was about the age of 14 and till basically the day that she died. And it was not a pretty battle. And, it was about a year and a half of dealing with her being sick and getting cancer treatments and things like that. But she eventually lost that fight and passed away. And we had a funeral for her and everything. And my ex-wife at the time, her mother was a flower artist, you could say. She would preserve flowers. And so she took a bouquet of flowers and would take flowers, dry them, and then once they were dried, she would take a picture of the bouquet, dry the flowers, pull the flowers apart, they would fall apart, and then she would hand paint the flowers, um, and then preserve them forever inside of a plastic case. All right, and there's the flowers right there from my mother's funeral. That's the casing and everything that we had the flowers put
So
in,
there's
and
a reference to it.
yeah, so so it takes a while for that process to get done. It took probably 4 to 6 months, and then my ex-wife brought it back to the apartment. She sets it down on the counter, and she's like, "Hey, look, the flowers are done. I brought it from my mother's. Come check it out." So I moved in toward that case that you just saw. Moved in toward it, and I get close to it to look at it. I'm like, "Man, that's really some great detail." And then it hits me: a smell of cigarette smoke. I don't smoke, never have. My ex-wife didn't smoke, and we lived in a smoke-free apartment complex. There was nobody around us smoking at all. And so I'm sticking my head in toward the case, and I could smell the cigarette smoke. And I'm like, whoa. And I pull my head back really fast because I was shocked by it. And the smell was gone. And my ex is looking at me like, what's wrong with you? So I moved in close to the flowers again. I could smell it again. And I said, come here, smell the flowers. What do you smell? Do you smell anything? Or is it just me? Am I losing my mind? She comes in and looks close at the flowers. She's like, that smells like your mom's cigarette smoke. I said, well, back up a few inches. Back up a few inches, nothing. Just normal air. Move in again, can smell it, move back, can't smell it. And it seemed like it was about a 8 to 12 inch like orb over those flowers. And then the last time I moved in, it was gone and we couldn't smell it anymore. Yeah. So that was probably one of my first experiences outside of, being married to a real life witch at one point when I was very young. But, we won't talk about that. I don't want to be cursed. But yeah, man. So, and then one other thing was, I don't know if I would classify this as a shadow people type of experience. Yeah. But one day I was home just sleeping. I had to take a nap. I had gone to college in the morning. I had morning classes, took all my kids to school and stuff. And I came home and crashed before I was going to go to work. And I'm laying in the bed and I got woke up. I could hear like this weird laughter. It sounded like little kids, right? But they sounded very far away, like real far away. I didn't understand. I thought maybe somehow my kids got home from school. So I roll over in the bed and I had the bedroom door open so I could look out into the hallway. And we were on the second floor. All the bedrooms were on the second floor of the house. And I'm looking and I could see what looked like, and I haven't told anybody this story before, but I could see what looked like little shadow kids running down the hallway, but it was a shadow of kids against the wall. So it was like their legs were on the floor, like flat on the floor, and then their upper legs and then torsos, head, and arms was going up the wall. Oh, wow. And they moved past the doorway, and I could hear this distant giggling. And then that was the only time I saw it, and it was extremely bizarre. I mean, just crazy, and freaked me out. And I've had other experiences in that house before too, and it's just I think it was the land. There was something there on that land. There was a house there before we built our house that had burnt down. And now they never told us if anybody died in that house, but I think somebody did. And instead of clearing the house out, they had a pool in the backyard and they bulldozed the remnants of that house that had burnt down into the pool and then buried it. Because when I started cutting the grass and stuff in the back of that house, you would see these fence poles and pieces of a house start to come up through the ground. And so, there was something going on with that. So, what do you think those were?
Wow. Enzo had a question here, and I believe he's speaking about the shadows, and I was going to
Yeah.
ask a little more about that too. As far as what exactly you thought they were.
I have no idea. I would just be grasping at straws. I don't know what that was. The first thing with my mother's cigarette smoke, I think my mom was saying bye. I think she had showed up to look at the flowers and was saying, "All right, you got something to remember me by. Keep them. I'm out of here." So that's what I think that was.
Which was very much his mom's personality.
Oh
so
yeah, my mom's personality, was very much dry like that. So yeah.
That's an incredible experience. Both of them really. As far as I wanted to just make sure I have this image in my head right. And you said that the shadows that you saw, you said part of the feet, I think, were on the floor, and it's like the rest of the body went up the wall. Can you explain that part again? I'm just trying to
Yeah.
clarify that.
Yep, no problem. So think of like if you are standing in front of a light and the light is shining on you and you're in, you have a hallway down to your left, part of it, and then a wall, part of your legs, your lower legs are going to be projected as a shadow on the floor.
Right.
And then
Okay.
when that shadow hits the wall, right, the rest of your body's going to be projected up on the wall. So that's like what I saw. It was almost like, okay, if I think about this, I would say there were invisible kids standing there blocking the light.
Exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, that's
Think about it like
what I was
that.
picturing in my head.
Yeah.
That's intense. That's exactly what I was picturing
I
in my
forgot
head.
a detail. You'll like this.
Okay.
So not only did I hear like kids, it sounded like kids laughing or giggling in the background, but I saw the shadow figures. I think there was like 3 of them. They moved past my door and I can see the shadows go down along the hallway on the wall, and then they disappear. And then about 3 seconds after the shadows had moved past my doorway, then I could hear like feet, footfalls. So it was like delayed.
Afterwards, he said, wow.
It was afterwards. It was delayed like by 3 seconds. It's like shadows go by. I'm like, what was that? Hear kids giggling, and then
oh, that's Enzo even said something about time slip in there. So it might have been like all of the above there.
Yeah.
That's wild. I don't know, the shadow figures, I still don't know if there's a connection to the whole UFO phenomenon, the shadow
I
figures.
don't like paranormal stuff.
I was gonna say, the one experience I had with the shadow figure, I get chills just thinking about it. To be honest, like I'm sitting here talking to you about it right now. I keep thinking I'm gonna turn to the left and see something. But
give me a UFO with technology that can do almost magical things. Give me something like that versus the whole paranormal stuff, because
me, it's give me the paranormal. I want to hear the stories.
See, so Michelle compliments me
I'm
when it comes to that
by
stuff.
paranormal stories.
Yeah, but I'm interested in like sacred geometry and things like that, though. So numerology and stuff, and encoding history and world lessons and stuff inside something scientific and measurable. I'm good with that, but you can keep the shadow people and the things flying across the room and the poltergeist stuff, and I'll send those emails to Michelle.
Well, I'm the same with you, really. Especially before I believed in any of this. At first, I was really skeptical. But even once I started to come around, I was very nuts and bolts, as they say, until I started actually seeing some of these orbs, materialize and dematerialize, and that's when I'm like, okay, now I know that there's, more to it than I initially thought. But like what you were saying earlier, science or technology or a species being so far advanced ahead of us that it might seem like something that's magic, or just like what we were saying earlier with everything being energy. Even if like what they say about like Sasquatch, possibly being interdimensional, being able to phase between realities. Like, who's to say that's not just something that can be a physical being here, but it's so highly evolved that it has these abilities that seem more, what would be like magic to us, pretty much, because it's something we can't even wrap our heads around. I mean, these
Yeah.
are just, theories. I theorize all the time, but
Well, I
like
think
I
our
said, I'm
technology
not
is
sure.
I agree. I think our technology is great. However, I think being able to do stuff like this and communicate with people across the planet in a split second and all, this is all great. But I also think that these things make us lazy. With the whole supernatural spiritual aspect of life, I think you got to have a balance. I mean, it's the yin and yang. You got to have a balanced
Mm.
life, right? And I think we're so out of balance. Some of us are, some of us aren't. But yeah, I think we're so, because I see like what happens to kids and teenagers with their magical, you know, black boxes they carry in their hands that we call, these things right here that eat up all their time. And somebody
Yeah.
somewhere is making, a quarter of a penny off of all that time they're spending, but multiply that by billions, and there's people making tons of money off of capturing kids' attention.
Yeah.
Spooky read my mind about the meditation.
Mm.
Yeah, he must have secretly heard what I was talking about earlier, saying that when we sell and move out of Michigan, I mean, when I do finally retire in like 7 years,
Mhm.
that I want like one room just for meditation.
Yeah.
I want it to be that Zen room.
And make like a Zen garden outside,
Yes.
and the desert's great for that.
Yeah,
So,
rock garden.
yeah.
That's what my rock garden and a Zen
That's
room.
rock art, you said.
Yeah.
And meditation is something I just started getting into. I've done it, I would say, successfully, is whenever they talk about like getting into the zone or the flow a couple of times, but I think my ADD makes it really difficult for me to do. But I mean, I will definitely say that I feel like there's extreme benefits to it, in multiple ways, like not just physically how you feel, but with me, I guess that clarity that you get from it. But that's definitely something I feel like I need to look more into. I see how they say people who get into the meditation, they're more, I guess, able to wrap their heads around experiences. People who have an experience, whether you want to call it paranormal or anything really.
Well,
Um,
this goes
I
all the way
think
back to things like feng shui and setting up those rock gardens to channel certain energies, or
right.
having a room set up right, or even like acupuncture. And and this is what gets me all the time whenever you hear a skeptic that wants to debunk some of those kind of things. Oh, well, it's just all in their mind. Okay, you just said a very powerful statement in trying to
Yeah.
debunk something like that, because if it is our mind, it's our perception of our reality that is helping you, then what are you really saying? Oh, it's fake because it's in your mind, it's a placebo effect, but yet it has an effect,
I was about to say
right?
placebo. If placebo still has an effect, yeah. Whether God, I used the same metaphor not too long ago. If
Yeah.
so if an experience it's only real to one person, or at least that's what other people think. If that person if their life is completely altered because of that experience, what's to say that it's not real just because that one person has experienced it? Just like what you're saying with placebo, just because it doesn't look real to the outside world, it has a real effect on that person, and it's going to have a real, change for that person for the rest of their life.
So
Um,
then is it
yeah,
not placebo effect then? If
yeah,
it has
exactly.
an effect, it's not placebo.
Yeah, exactly. I have trouble wrapping my head around that sometimes myself, to be
Right?
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that the placebo effect. That's just I could make a whole episode on that alone. To be honest, I actually got a book,
Absolutely.
Dr.
The
Joe
power
Dispenza.
of
I
the
don't know if you
mind,
ever heard of
man.
him. Yeah,
The power
definitely.
of the mind and the consciousness. I threw out a very kind of different kind of question on our Facebook group a couple weeks ago, and I said, "What if our brains are actually antennas to the other side, whatever you want to call that? That our brains are the antennas for our consciousness. So if you figure somebody has brain damage or whatever, and their personalities change and things like that." That would make sense that if our brains are the conduit for the consciousness from somewhere else in the universe, that's their purpose. Because why isn't everybody exactly the same as if it's all set up on different neurochemicals and things like that when we're all basically the same,
Right.
right? So,
I completely agree with that 100%. That's a personal belief of mine. The whole antenna thing you said, I've used the same exact metaphor, to be
yeah,
honest.
I know Spooky's
Um,
big into this, so I see him on
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about the different chakras and things like that, but
Well, I think about
it
things
was a
like
random thought.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying it was a random thought I had one day, and I said, "Well, this will cause some problems in the Facebook group with 5,000 people.
Yeah, I
Let's
get
see
that.
what
Did you see
happens."
the question that I put out on Facebook? I'm like, no, not yet.
And then you get the smart ass responses of well, some people's antennas need to be fixed, and then somebody else says, "Well, I have cable. I don't need antennas."
Well, I look at
So,
I think if you look at things like and everybody has their own opinions about whether to believe this or not, but things like remote viewing and out of body experiences or near death experiences where you're about people, looking at their body from above or being able to, you call out details from a room like a doctor who walked in the room after the person's, heart stopped beating and stuff. To me, things like that and remote viewing, that's kind of like a proof, at least to me, that, our conscious isn't physically inside of our body. It's more like a vessel, like you're like an antenna, like what you were saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, my
otherwise, I
uncle
don't know
just
how
got
you
done.
explain it.
My uncle
Sorry,
just got done telling us a story within the last couple weeks.
yeah,
Of when he had his heart surgery back in the late 90s, that he had an out of body experience because they had to stop his heart to restore or repair something having to
I
God,
think it
I
was
don't.
an artery.
Yeah, I want to say it was an artery. He had
Yeah,
had a heart attack, so he had talked about this out of body experience as well. And so it was funny that you bring up, the remote viewing.
are
yeah.
you are you comfortable sharing any of that at all, or is that too personal?
Um, I honestly would want to talk to him more to see if it's something I could share more of his story and get some more
Okay.
details written down, because we just happen to be sitting and, just talking about things because they are very much believers and very fascinated about anything having to do with UFOs or extraterrestrial
Mhm.
or
Oh, that's
even
cool.
paranormal stories. However, they would never investigate the paranormal because they are completely creeped out by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of
Um.
like me, I'm creeped out by it. Just
Yeah.
give
I'm
me a
a.
UFO.
I'm kind of like fascinated and creeped out a little bit at the same time when it comes to some of the more paranormal stuff. But honestly, like with this whole podcast, I don't plan on just speaking to people about UFOs and everything, even though that's kind of like what was what launched me wanting to do this in the first place. But that was really just like what kickstarted me, you know figuring out about all these other phenomena, about the metaphysical and the paranormal and everything. Um, like I personally think that consciousness is kind of like the connective thread between everything. And I don't just mean consciousness as in like a self-aware being like what we are. I think even something like a tree or a plant or anything that has life or energy, like what we were saying earlier. It might not be the type of consciousness like what we are, like self-aware, but there's life to it. I just That's just kind of where I go, and I get scrambled sometimes trying to put it into words exactly the way that I view it. I
Well,
just
they keep
think
on,
that life.
you know,
Sorry, go
think
ahead.
about it. I was just going to say, think about it like this. They keep on pushing back the years of how long humans in our current form, of Homo sapiens sapien, have been on this planet. Now they're pushing us back to almost 400,000 years that humans have been running around on this planet. And
Yeah,
this is the only time, within the last 150 years that advances have been made in technology. And then everybody will say, well, where's the evidence of the other stuff? Go check underneath the ocean, man, when that
yeah,
400 feet of water came in. But you mean to tell me that people weren't thinking about this and having, I mean, name of your podcast, Trippy Times. People were elevating their consciousness through drugs and hallucinogens. And now so much of this stuff with like conscious experience, they're studying it in Harvard and Yale with, ayahuasca and, these mind altering
DM,
drugs, and trying to figure out why are people having the same visions, and
yeah,
going into these
DMT, yeah,
sensory, yeah, DMT, right. Having these same kind of experiences with their consciousness and thousands of years ago. I mean, you can read stories about monks that would go into caves to meditate for weeks and go into these altered mind states. And, it's like, man, we've been around for a long time doing this stuff, and now we're just trying to get back to it. And it's crazy to think about, like, how much have we lost, when it
yeah,
comes to this. And now you got, Elon Musk talking about creating a neuro net to put on your head or in your brain, so now you can control things with just your thoughts, which is great for people that are paraplegic and things like that. But my God, where are we
absolutely.
going?
Yeah, it's a that kind of I have mixed opinions about that. I think it's fascinating and freaky at the same time. I don't know, the whole like putting computer chips in people's heads, to me, it just makes me think about like Terminator Judgment Day type
Yeah.
stuff, to be honest. I mean, as far as like people who have like a disability or something, I mean, I think that's great, like restore, part of their body where they're paralyzed, but I just think it's really kind of risky, putting a computer in somebody's head, regardless of what you're doing. And I mean, that's just my personal opinion on it. Um, I wanted to get on to something that you made me think about earlier. I meant to bring this up earlier since we were talking about, you know, um, species with amnesia. I think there are a lot of things, if you look at religions and cultures around the world, things that people might have thought as myths, where there's probably a lot more reality to it than what we realize. And I heard you mention this on, I think it was a podcast with Dave, or it might have been another one, but the giants, I think it was red haired giants. I heard you
Mhm.
mention, and even remember you bringing up a story. It just now came to me about some hippie chick, I think, that came up to y'all in a parking lot or
Oh,
something.
Yeah, we
Michelle, I'm gonna
Y'all both
grab a
can share
water.
that?
Michelle can tell that
I
story.
I can
I'll be right back.
we
Okay.
were heading back to we had just finished unloading groceries into the car, and Wayne had his Lake Tahoe hoodie sweatshirt on. And so all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this, older woman appeared in between the vehicles and said, "Oh, oh, you like Lake Tahoe?" And so we were talking about, yes, we've traveled there. We got, married in Lake Tahoe, California. And so the conversation went to how much we would love to live out there. It's way too expensive. But then she was like, well, you should look around Gardnerville, which is very funny because Gardnerville, Nevada was actually a place that I had been considering us, selling and moving to. And so she began talking about what was it? One of the tourist museums where they had like the the remnants of this red-haired giant, that she had seen a red-haired giant up in the mountains of around Lake Tahoe. So Wayne can take over the rest of it, because the conversation was, he had it more with her. I was just an innocent bystander.
Right.
I'll be right back.
I honestly, I don't know how some of this stuff happens to me, but this was years before we even had our experience, all of it, And yeah, she had just kind of appeared out between two cars, and I just hear this voice, and it's this woman's voice. So you guys like Lake Tahoe? Have you been there? And I'm looking around, and then here's this woman with long hair. She's got where's Spooky at? She's got the crystals tied in her hair on like beads, right? And a necklace and everything, right? And see, Spooky said crystals. And she's telling us about these giants, these red-haired giants that live up in the mountains up there, and you can find them because they cover their caves with a certain type of bush and tree limbs or something. And if you know what to look for, you know where you can find them. And I'm just like, what? And then, like Michelle had said, that they had found remains of a giant with red hair, and they had him locked away and secreted away the bones and things like that. But she had seen them. I was like, oh, well, that's pretty cool, I guess. And we just went about our business. What's that?
You said this was before the triangle sighting that has happened?
Oh yeah. This was that was 2017, something like that.
Wow.
And we didn't have our experience until 2018. So
wow. It makes me think of the Anunnaki stranger, that story that I shared with you.
Right.
Just the random person coming up to you,
Well, we had Brian Forrester, right? We had Brian Forrester from Hidden Inca Tours, and he does all of this research and things on the megalithic structures in Peru, Machu Picchu and Pinatubo and all of these ancient structures, about how the hell did they move these and shape these rocks to fit perfectly and up and down mountains 10,000 feet up. It's like this was done by an advanced civilization kind of a thing. But one of the things that he investigated was the elongated skulls, and they did genetic testing on them.
And they still have red hair on them, right? The skulls.
Yes, they were red. They were red haired. They had red hair on them. Yeah.
Wow.
And and some, I guess, if I remember correctly, I think some of the DNA, they traced them back to somewhere around the Baltic Sea area, but some of their DNA was not completely human, because there were tribes there that the indigenous tribes were mimicking and trying to create the elongated skulls in their tribes for their leaders and things. But you could tell there was a difference, because the genetics were different from the original elongated skull people, where that was part of their genetic makeup. It was not created from an outside force by, like, when you're a baby putting boards on your head. They do that with babies now that are born so they don't have flat spots. If they lay, with your skull is very soft as a baby, and they can change the shape of your skull basically, and that's what some of these tribes have done. But these people, it had something to do with like the sutures in the pieces of the bone that they didn't have, which means that their elongated skull was a natural feature.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I was just watching something, I can't remember, the guy with the crazy hair from Ancient Aliens. He's got a show, the In Search of Aliens or something. It was a show where he was just exactly what you were just talking about, and the whole the suture thing, yeah, whatever it is that what you were just speaking of, that
Yeah,
they don't have that, a normal person with that skull that's been elongated, by people specifically making it look like, they don't have that. And
yeah,
that's like the kind of like the crack like looking thing, isn't it? That
yes.
you're talking about the
Like our
separation.
Yes, our skulls, when babies are born, they have the soft spot type of thing. That's
Yeah,
because our skulls, when we're born, are made of like three different plates.
yeah,
Well, these
right.
people, right? And then they have the suture on the skull where
Yeah,
those bones eventually fuse together. And these people didn't have that, or have one of them, or they were missing one of them, or whatever. that
yeah,
that
that's crazy.
showed that without that suture, you have to have a naturally formed skull that's elongated, unlike a human where they could make it elongated, but you need it to have that suture to make it elongated, and the skull would have to be soft enough to do. And let's see, Enzo's asking a question here.
Nothing about the hippie stranger. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Would my reaction be different right now? Heck yeah, I would just give her my email and say, let's set up a time to talk on the podcast. I'd be very interested in that because there's been so many rumors of giants, from the past, from the Bible, Nephilim, the Nephilim, what are they called? The Nephilim or something like
Yeah,
that, right?
Nephilim,
Yeah,
Nephilim.
yeah. Or they go
Yeah,
by
these,
different names, right? But these were supposed
yeah,
to be the offspring of the fallen angels and kidnapped women,
right.
depending on what mythology you're looking at or religion you're studying. And it
Right.
would be fascinating to see. I know that they said that they had found, and by they, I don't know, some fringe topic somewhere about giant bones being found in caves in the Grand Canyon that are now off limits, and the Smithsonian is like hiding them away or whatever. And
Yeah, I've heard
I'm not
underneath the
going to disagree.
Vatican.
Yeah, I'm not going to discount that, that quote unquote conspiracy theory, because when there is 150 plus different, mythological stories, whatever you want to call them out there, of a great flood happening, wiping out a lot of humans on this planet, and yet it's not talked about in science books because they're worried about giving credibility to a religion or a religious story.
Right.
Sure, I will put money on the fact that if they did find bones of a giant human of some type, or some type of humanoid creature, that they would definitely lock it away, just so
I
you can't
totally
have
agree.
that.
Yeah, and just like what you were saying with the flood, giants, that's another reoccurring, theme that you see in different
Absolutely.
cultures and religions all around the world. Native Americans, they actually talk about these red-haired giants that would come and, grab children and again women and eat them and stuff. Just they're always really violent. And then I believe it was Iraq as well. There's a story about some soldiers, or maybe it was Vietnam or somewhere. It was during a war. Actually, I
I
think it
think
was
it was
somewhere in
in
the Middle East.
Iran.
Yeah,
I think
Iran,
Iran, yeah.
and then I can't remember exactly. There's a name for it and everything. I don't know if somebody in the chat might know about it. God, I cannot remember the name. It's driving me crazy right now. But I think they actually had like a fight with like they shot at her, or there was even a soldier that might have been killed or mangled, or supposedly,
Yeah.
according to this story. I cannot remember right now. It's driving me crazy. It's on the tip of my tongue. They speak about it like throwing boulders and crap. Just feats of great strength.
The giant of Kandahar.
There, yeah, Kandahar giant.
That's
That's
it.
what it
Yeah.
was.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're giants. That's just another one of those things that you see pop up in all these cultures and the religions around the world. It's a reoccurring theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kandahar giant. That's what it was. It drive me
Yep.
crazy. Um, yeah, I was actually just speaking to Chad Smith and Sonny not too long ago about that. Wayne, if I'm not mistaken, this might not have been you. If it wasn't, I apologize. I know you spoke earlier about the shadows that were on the wall, but was there another experience that you had with the shadow figure, or was it something like down a hallway or a tunnel or something like that? I'm trying to remember.
There was a hallway experience I had when I walked in my house one day. Um, it was so bad that I left the house, and I left for a couple hours. So I'm walking in my front door, and you got a picture like when you walk in the front door of my old house, directly to the right was an archway that went into the living room. Directly to the left was a staircase that went one stair up and then turned to the right and then went up to the second floor. And then directly in front of you was a hallway that led to a kitchen nook type of area and then our kitchen. And what we used to do to keep, because we had dogs, we had a Great Pyrenees and we had a pit bull. And what we used to do to keep the dogs from going upstairs and tearing things up and running up and down the stairs and being a problem is the baby gates that we had for my kids when they were little. We just left them sitting at the base of the stairs to deter the dogs. Wouldn't mess with the baby gates. They wouldn't try to jump them or anything. They just stayed away from them. Well, I come home one day and laying on the stair, to my left is the baby gate. We didn't even have to attach them to the wall, right, to make a baby gate wall. We could just lay it down and the dogs just left them alone. We're like, cool. So I walk in, shut the door behind me. I'm standing there and I look down the hallway toward the kitchen, and here's the pit bull coming around the corner, and her hair is standing up on the back of her neck and she's growling like, whoa, okay, great. I'm going to be one of those guys in the news that their pit bull goes nuts and attacks them, right? Here we go. I'm like, well, I better think about running out the door because those jaws are going to tear me apart. And I'm watching her and I'm like, and strangely enough, we named her Hera after the goddess. And so I said, Hera, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she hunches down and, she's a good 20 feet, and she's hunching down and she's growling, but she's not growling at me. I'm looking at her and I'm like, what? And I look to my side and she's growling at the baby gate. I'm like, okay, what is this? Why are you growling at the baby gate? It's all right. And she's like, doing the growl and little barks and her hair's really standing up. And I'm like, what? There's nothing going on here, And as soon as I said that, the baby gate went from laying almost on its side completely to standing up on edge on its own and slid at my dog down the hallway, then stopped and fell over. And the dog was gone. She's yiping, running as soon as the thing came at her. I immediately turned around, opened that door, shut the door and locked it, got in my car and went and got breakfast and went to the store for 2 hours. I mean, I would not go in the house. It was one of the most terrifying experiences like that I've ever had, other than there is another shadow person one, and Michelle knows about this place, but back in the day, there was Eloise Sanitarium, and it always was a thing for, teenagers and early 20s something to break into the place and go down in their tunnels because all the different buildings and structures were connected with tunnels. And you could get into the tunnels by going into a building. You sneak in, you pass the security guards. They were, I don't know, observant as a blind, bug. They didn't.
I don't know. We had access to the tunnels through the
side.
Well, no, it was down in the woods.
Yeah. So there was ways you could do that too, but we ran out into the grounds. There's about 5 or 6 of us. And we go through the buildings and we're like looking at the swimming pool that's all filled in and graffiti and chunks of the ceiling had fallen in. It was just trashed, but it was supposed to be haunted and all this stuff. So we get down into these tunnels and we're trying to go through the tunnels from one building to the next. And I believe Eloise's had movies made of it, right? Of people and, ghost hunters have come in there and stuff, but this was like early 90s.
Wow.
And we're going in there, and me and the singer for my band that I had going at the time were kind of in front of people. And this was before cell phones with flashlights and all this stuff. So we had, flashlights or whatever, and some candles or some stupid, it's just lighters, and we're down these dark hallways, and we're underground in these tunnels, and we could hear dunk, 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 dunk. It sounded like somebody running. And we shine the light down the hall, and it's like this black mass, like a fog of blackness coming toward us. And in front of that fog was this very large, shadowy looking figure coming running right toward us. And it gets to about here, and I braced myself like this because I figured I was going to get somebody was down there, and they were charging us. And I mean, that's all I could see. And so I'm like this, bracing myself, and I just feel like this cool mist hit me, and it was gone. It
Wow.
just
So a temperature drop?
it felt like, you ever have somebody take a Windex bottle with cool water in it, spray you?
Yeah.
Right? That's what it felt like, but all over your body, all at the same time. I was like, we ran. We got out of there. That was the last time I was ever in any place like that. So you can kind of see why I don't really care for the paranormal. I've had one nice experience when it came to like my mom's stuff. And it's like,
However, here's the thing: we're still gonna pay to go on the ghost hunt at Eloise, because now they
really?
do. Yeah, they do those. Yeah, he's going with me when I go.
I don't think so. I don't like the jump scare stuff, man. I really don't. And
I figure it'll be psychological warfare being in there, even on a tour.
It is. I just, yeah.
Wow.
That was my other shadow experience. But,
yeah, that's the one I think I heard you mention on one of your shows before.
Yeah,
that's yeah. You saying it's sprinting at you. That's the thing that just I got a little bit chills when you said that.
I thought
it was heard the footstep. Oh, God.
Yes. And it was echoing down this tunnel. And Michelle knows the tunnels I'm talking about. They're concrete tunnels with piping and stuff, that they would heat the buildings through these tunnels, through these pipes. And, oh my God, it was great. I mean, just absolutely nuts.
Are we talking about how I would have handled it differently if something was running at me? Oh, I would have screamed like a little girl. There's no doubt. I'd be fascinated and still screaming like a little girl.
Terrifying in the moment. Later on, excited about it, but
I'm still not interested. If I was in that same situation now, I'm still not interested in being in that situation.
Well, and that's like when we were high schoolers and we would get into the tunnel systems down outside of this one park off of Vinoy Road in Westland. We would get in there, and you could only go so far before it would branch out to 2 or 3 other tunnels. And I think it was just the one time that a few of us had went down there that we started hearing like voices and whispers. That we turned around and headed right out of there too. So whatever was going on in that tunnel, if it was paranormal at the time, we didn't want any part of it, and we just got out of there.
Yeah.
Wow. That's I did want to ask I keep picturing that shadow figure running, and I just, with me having an experience with a shadow figure of my own, it's like I can just vividly picture what you're saying. And luckily mine, I don't want to say it was positive because I don't know that it's positive, but it didn't try to harm me. I didn't feel threatened. It was just a shock factor. But with something sprinting at me, I think I would have. I had trouble sleeping at night in my experience. I think I would have been out the house if I would have experienced something like that coming straight at me. As far as a positive experience, though, whether it's something paranormal or UFO, ET related, have you y'all had anybody come on your channel or on your podcast that have spoken of any positive experiences that they've had? Anything that they know was positive, you know.
Hmm.
I know
You know,
people. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm trying to think.
I'm fast forwarding through all of our
Well, I
podcasts
know
that
that
we've done so far.
one of the interviews, there was a connection with a parent that they had shortly after the parent's death that seemed um more of like a goodbye in passing. I remember a conversation that we had.
Was it a parent or grandparent? You're not speaking about my dream experience or astral projection by any chance, are you?
No. No, there
Okay.
was another one. There was another one too.
Yeah, I can't say we've had anybody on that's been, I don't want to say it like, they haven't been positive. I mean, but we haven't had anybody come on and be like, "Oh, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed aliens are trying to save us from the, polluting our planet or whatever,
Yeah.
stuff like that." No, it's like it's either been very neutral when it comes to experiences, or kind of dark, and especially when it comes to talking about the triangles. Those triangles, the triangle craft, don't ever seem to have a very good. uh
Yeah, they seem pretty nasty from what I
yeah,
researched
they
too.
they yeah, like, I don't know, maybe those are like the reptilians or whatever
Right.
that are negative. I mean,
Malevolent.
yeah, I can't explain it, but I've never had anybody say, "Oh yeah, I saw a triangle and it changed our life. It made us all feel so good, and we really have to hug people more."
Oh.
We've never that's never happened. So,
um. Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't know if maybe you had anybody speak of anything like that, or there's people who I don't know. I guess maybe I'm a little lucky that I know the Bledsoe family. I know that they've had positive experiences, and for me to see him like be able to sense these things coming and they appear, you know, like, and he looks at it as something positive. Yeah, I guess that put me in a situation where I'm lucky to know that there is at least some positive ones, or at least what he's dealing with specifically. But he also has, stories about healing and stuff, and um, whether people believe, his experience or not, there's things about his experience you can't deny, like the fact that he had Crohn's disease for 15 years, and then after his 4 hours missing time, his Crohn's disease is gone, and y'all know there's no cure for that disease. And that's something else I actually wanted to ask you about the missing time with those triangles. Is it missing time something that's usually associated with the black triangles?
Sometimes.
yeah.
Not all the time, because
Yeah.
we did not lose time with
Well, y'all
ours.
y'all turned around quick whenever y'all saw it, right? Y'all went away from it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we were still headed in the same direction.
Yeah.
What
We were going toward
we
each
were
other
yeah, we were going
to
home
get
no
on
matter what.
to get on the expressway. I had to go toward this thing to get on the on ramp that would then take us around. And she was closest to it after we merged, and while we were merging, I was I was driving, so I was on the driver's side, and the thing was right there. That's how I could see the skin effect and things like that. But from stuff I've kind of gathered about these triangle craft, they seem to not only have like a negative connotation to them, but also it seems like abductions really kind of seem to follow these craft. And I know there's some people out there, say that there's the saucer type or the wing shaped type of craft that has taken people. But from our experience in talking to people, Terry Lovelace, Guy Merritt, uh, at least here in Michigan, it seems like that when you see a triangle, it's very possible that an abduction case is also related to it as well.
Do you
And
think y'all would
they're
have
not good.
experienced? Do you think
Hmm?
y'all have experienced missing time? I was gonna ask you, if y'all wouldn't have turned around or done something differently, do you think that y'all may have experienced missing time or a possible abduction?
Well, I had a very ominous feeling as soon as I saw it, whatever this thing was. It was either going to be a crashing airliner into like a major part of the city, which, was the first thing I was thinking. Then the second thing was this is some type of a craft that, you know, is not a good thing. And I don't know. I think that if we would have been so chosen, that it probably would not have been a positive experience because I had a negative feeling right from the get go. Michelle was the one that was like, "When did our government get something?" Or when
Now I
did our
got the window
military-"
down, like,
right?
right at the window, like,
Can't hear a
can I
thing.
can't hear anything.
When did our
Wow.
military get something like that? No heat, couldn't feel no heat, couldn't hear anything. So
Nope, just normal traffic and, whatever wind from traveling.
That kind of leads to the next question, which I think I already know your answer, but so do y'all two definitely believe that the triangle you saw was it extraterrestrial, or do you think it could have been military or reverse engineered, possibly?
Don't know.
here's
So up
what
in the air.
here's what I'll say, and I'm gonna try to use FAA regulations and logic behind it. If this was something that our government is flying around, they're doing it wrong, especially if they want to keep these things secret. You do
Yeah,
not fly a large triangular craft a couple 100 feet over a congested city and within about 10 miles of a very busy international airport. That spells disaster. And if they are doing that, then somebody needs to be held accountable because as a private pilot, when I was flying little airplanes, you had strict regulations you followed, especially as a visual flight rules pilot. I was not instrument flight rule rated. So it was like you have to stay 500 feet away from clouds. You have to be at least 500 feet over a city, right? You can't just disobey the rules out there. And if we're test flying aircraft or whatever this craft was, new technology over craft or over cities and people like that, then somebody's head needs to roll. You can't do that, especially if you have a craft that is in the area and they're going to, be by a 747 heading toward France or whatever with 400 people on board and they're going to crash into this thing. And maybe
yeah,
they have capabilities that won't allow them, will get them out of harm's way or whatever. But I mean, one of the news stories that we did on our podcast was about, an airliner or it was a FedEx airliner, cargo hauler
The one in Arizona.
around Arizona that reported a tic tac shaped craft
That went
flew
over top.
right over the top of them, very close that the pilot saw it. So
wow,
much so the FBI got involved. So, now could it, some people are like, oh, that sounds like a cruise missile. Here's a news flash for you. Cruise missiles are cruise missiles because they stay very low to the ground. Right? They fly low to the ground so they can evade radar so they don't get shot down. And they use the ground to mask them flying in. These things can remotely fly through canyons and stuff. You
right.
can program their flight path. And I mean,
Which is crazy, by the way.
right, that these things are that smart using radar and
Yeah, exactly.
ground terrain radar, following radar and things that they can steer themselves using GPS and all this, and they can go for hundreds of miles once they're launched. They can go, but they're very low to the ground. They're not at 37,000 feet up, zipping across the path of a FedEx, jetliner. And then what would have happened if it hit?
Yeah.
So if that's us, that's not cool at all. We should not be doing that. Stick to the test ranges, not populated cities. And don't let people see you if you want to keep it secret.
Yeah.
That's where you need to get like James Goodall to talk about, how he was the first civilian to take a picture, the first picture of the F-117, Black Hawk or Nighthawk fighter. So,
Yeah, I was just about to say, if that's something reverse engineered, if there's some kind of cloaking technology and it is reverse engineered, they must have screwed up that day or something. So yeah.
Well, it seems to be happening a lot.
Yeah.
Because people are seeing a lot.
Yeah, it's or I mean, who knows, if it is extraterrestrials, maybe that is their way of like slowly leaking out disclosure, and that kind of that leads to one next questions, and sorry, I am gonna have to head out here kind of soon, you guys, and I really do
Sounds
want to
good.
thank y'all for being on here, and I didn't realize how late it was getting. I have to take off somewhere in a little bit, but disclosure, what do you, both of y'all, what do y'all hope to gain out of it, or what do y'all think is, more specifically, I want to ask, what do y'all think is the best way that disclosure should come out? I'm sure you don't think we're going to get somewhere to go.
Do you want to jump on it first?
No, I want you to.
You want me to?
I want you to.
Disclosure. I think we've pretty much already had disclosure, and disclosure is coming from people like us and you and everybody else out there. I think that's the disclosure, and that we are, at least for now, free to talk about these topics and put things out there and put people's stories out there for them. Give people a place to listen to other people's accounts, to feel comfortable with things that they've seen, and that they maybe don't know exactly what they are and feel weird or feel like I can't talk about it. Well, here's somebody else's story, kind of a thing. But I think that the potosphere, the shows like this live on YouTube, Christina Gomez, all David Scott, I mean, all of these people, their disclosure, they're
Right.
it.
I completely agree.
Yeah. I don't know if Michelle feels any differently.
No, just keeping the communication channels open. And I know that we've reached out to a few people, some big names, about getting them on the show, but it seems that everybody's either in a movie deal or a book deal right now.
They're locked down. Like I just got an email from Nick Pope the other day and was hoping to have him on.
Oh, wow.
And he seems, he says he's booked up for the foreseeable future. So into this year. So we'll see. Maybe something will come of that. But yeah, so him and Lou Elizondo and trying to get some of these people on, but I know that they are dealing with, like, Lou Elizondo, I guess, is releasing a book, or has released a book, and I guess there's some stuff that he's going to be having to do with that. So hopefully we'll have him on in the future to be able to talk about his book. So
I think his book
these guys are all the disclosure. All of this stuff is the disclosure.
I completely agree. I think it's a process, and I think it's already begun. I don't think it's something that the government ever wanted to happen. I don't think we'll ever get disclosure from the government. I think right now it's kind of in a position where they got backed into a corner, or pretty much like people came out already that are so credible, and people who protect our country. People who, like David Fravor, they're protecting our country. Flying around with weapons of mass destruction, and now it's like they have a choice. They can either say, these people, they're all just loonies. They're making up stuff and they're crazy, but we're letting them fly around, with these, jets to protect us and everything. Or they can, admit to this real and try to, I don't want to say control the narrative because I don't think they're going to be able to, but they're going to try to control it at least as much as they possibly can. And
Yep.
I feel like they're going to try to at least control the way that it gets out is what I'm trying to say. And honestly, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope it's not completely left up to them. I hope that it's more like what you're saying, these podcasted experiencers who get this stuff out. And of course they're going to try to monitor as best as they can, but I hope that I just want the correct information to get out is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% correct, and I also think that now that they have to release information about these metamaterials or whatever. Hey, Big Willie. But these metamaterials and stuff that they have, and what I find really fascinating when it comes to disclosure and information we're going to start seeing are pilots that have had some adverse medical effects.
Right.
So, man, metamaterials, adverse medical effects, these things that they have to account for and speak for now. The cat's out of the bag. When they released those 3 videos, in the 2014, the gimbal, the go fast, and the tic tac. You're exactly right. Are you going to call people that we put in charge of flying, $3 billion aircraft with the best technology in the world on them to wage war, and then call them crazy? You can't do that. You discredit yourself.
Yeah.
So they'll control the flow. So cat's out of the bag now.
Yeah, most definitely. And the metamaterial stuff that you're speaking of, and the whole adverse reactions with people coming in close proximity with some of these craft, that's something I think is fascinating and kind of freaky at the same time. But I've heard things about like people getting arthritis and certain things like that, and it might not even necessarily be something that is intentional. It might just be the fact that these people are in, maybe there's the proximity of like the anti-gravity or whatever it is that actually controls this propulsion system in these craft. Maybe that's what's messing up some of these people. I think it was my mind is going so blank right now trying to think of his name, but Travis Walton. I think he actually said something about years later on. He came to this conclusion that he believes that there could be a strong chance that his whole abduction experience, they were actually possibly, repairing some nervous system damage that was done to him by getting too close to this craft whenever it happened. If
Yeah.
that's true or not.
Well, I will
think
tell you. I will tell you that before 2018, that the UFO, the triangle experience that Michelle and I had a full head of hair.
Do what? Sorry.
I had a full head of hair.
Oh, really?
Before wow. 2018, this is what happened after. And I just cut this yesterday, and it doesn't stop growing. It's all because of the black triangles.
They're blaming on the triangle.
It's an adverse medical effect.
I cannot with him. He had no hair.
I missed the part of it, and I looked down there and saw Michelle shaking. I'm like, okay, it's okay to laugh.
Yeah, all you gotta do is look at Michelle to know when I'm really causing trouble.
See some awesome people popping up down here in the chat.
Yeah.
And, we are about to be closing out here soon, but yeah, I'm glad that y'all were able to make it. Excuse me.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us on. It was great to be able to talk to you again on your show. So
yeah, great time getting y'all on here. I'm sorry, I know we had some technical issues here at the very beginning, and still don't know what's going on with my intro, but I'm going to figure it out. But yeah, I had such a great time with you guys on here. Oh, I think Enzo had a question. I don't know if this is serious or not. Sorry. Yeah,
Did it all go gray when the shadow thing rushed you? It would have for
oh,
me.
that's funny.
Yeah.
I
Right.
was about to say, yeah. I think everything would turn gray on my head as well. Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
what in full disclosure, I will say that my beard, turned
Mhm.
all gray when I went through what's called a thyroid storm. So and honestly, maybe that started when after the triangle experience, but my thyroid is messed up in my throat. So, and when I went through this really weird time with my thyroid, with my hormone levels being messed up, my beard did go all gray,
Yeah,
like
it went gray.
within a couple weeks of dealing with that. So,
Oh, well.
yeah, it
So,
was
so,
crazy. So, who's to say?
yeah, who knows? Yeah, I still keep thinking about that shadow thing rushing you earlier, to be honest. You got that back on
It's
my mind. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was a long time
Um,
ago, and I'm glad. But just feeling that cold mist like slam into me
Well,
was
Josh, you're welcome to come to Michigan when we go do that tour at Eloise.
I'm kind of like a little bit like both of y'all, fascinated and freaked out about the whole paranormal stuff. I still just, I don't know, it's something I can't even wrap my head around, to be honest. And if y'all ever make it here to North Carolina, and y'all want to go visit the Bledsoe family, I know I was just speaking to him not too long ago about going up there and visiting him sometime. Maybe y'all come down there. I know I promised Chad Smith and I think Big Willie and you know Spooky, whoever makes it down here, we go over there and have a little cookout. Chris actually said it was okay. Maybe go do some sky watching. I don't
I was
want
going to
to,
say eventually I got to get down there. My
yeah.
brother lives down there.
I was gonna say, yeah, we
Oh,
got
really?
family down there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, my
Um,
brother-in-law lives down there. But yeah, on one side of us, so Michelle and I are like right in between. We got over here to the west, we have Chad Smith, not too far from us, and then over here to the east, kind of the northeast, we got Big Willie. So yeah, a bunch of us Michigan people are coming forward and putting the spotlight on this state once again after it was rudely shut down by Project Blue Book and Mr. Dr. Hynek.
yeah.
So in
Swamp
1966,
gas.
swamp gas.
Swamp gas.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. I think Spooky. Yeah, Spooky said that sounds like a dream. Yeah, I'd love. It'd be great, even if we didn't go visit Bledsoe's. I would love just to get all of us together sometime. And by the way, that was Chris Bledsoe's words. Actually, I just said I wasn't just saying that for him. He actually said, if we get together, he'd love to have a little cookout and go do some sky watching down there at his house.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Um,
Well, here's the
yeah,
thing. We should all get together and do like a live, podcast, like a live,
yeah.
you know, panel of some
Maybe,
kind somewhere.
maybe even get some
So,
orbs live during the video. Have a sighting. Yeah,
yeah.
that'd be amazing.
Well, I'll
Before we
tell you
go
what,
here,
man.
sorry, go ahead.
March in Michigan seems to be the time of the triangles here. So, you know, the swamp gas incident was March until April, and all the triangle experiences, Michelle and I have interviewed people have been the month of March, including our own. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Definitely. I'm sorry. I'm just writing a few things down. Um, so before we get off, is there anybody that y'all would like to announce that's coming on y'all show here in the future? Anybody that you wanted to let people know about?
Still working on some things.
Yeah, we're so busy right now. We just had the semester switch over, and I've got feelers out there for guests. I just, it's just been so busy. And then some of the people that I really wanted to have come on have said, no. But we have our 1 year anniversary coming up where we're going to flip from season 1 to season 2.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
that's going to be in March, strangely enough. So, yeah, we need to get, a couple more guests on to end out this year, our very first year of podcasting. And trying to get people to come on, sometimes it's a little rough. So
Yeah. Well, I've got Terry Lovelace coming on tomorrow, and I want to thank y'all for that
yeah,
specifically because y'all are the one who recommended me to him. Um,
yeah,
y'all
great,
recommended
just
me
a
to
great
reach out to
guy.
him. Yeah, he's awesome. I spoke to him this morning actually, and
He's got lots of ties to Michigan. He went to, I think it was Western Michigan University to get his law degree, and yeah, I think his
yeah,
son is still up here somewhere.
And so I would say spring and summer solstice. So to answer that question, so I would definitely say spring and summer solstice.
okay. Oh yeah, peak during spring. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as far as the peak.
Yeah.
Well, and then during the summer too, we kind of went down a different rabbit hole looking into as far as the pyramids of Egypt and
Yeah. I'm big into the ancient technology and the forgotten civilizations before the ending of the last ice age. As an earth scientist, I see so much evidence and hear so much crap from the mainstream and from college professors and stuff to try to explain away things that it makes no sense to me whatsoever. And so, it all goes back to like the ideas of Atlantis and stuff. And, Plato was not one to sit there and lie about things. He passed on legitimate information. So,
Right. Atlantis, Lemuria. I've been researching that so much here lately. It's really fascinating me, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but the was it the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, I believe. Something I was looking into here
the
recently.
Thoth tablets.
Thoth. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've kind of gotten addicted to that here. Well, I fell off it a couple weeks ago, but I need to get back into it. A book that I was reading. It's all fascinating stuff, though. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Terry tomorrow, and I told him earlier this morning actually that I was going to have y'all on, and he asked me to say hello to both y'all. So before I forget, I
Awesome.
wanted to go ahead and say
tell him that we said hello.
Yeah, I'm finishing his second book, The Reckoning. So when I get
Okay.
that done, I think I'm going to have him come back on the podcast to talk about that. So,
Yeah, I'm really
Book,
excited to have him
book,
on
book
tomorrow.
talk with Terry Lovelace.
right.
um, I've got him coming on tomorrow. Barbara Jean Lindsay. I don't know if y'all are familiar with her. She'll be on Valentine's Day, and then I'm really kind of I'm just blown away that I even got this guest. But Kathleen Martin, she's coming on this 22nd. She's I believe, the grandniece of Betty and Barney Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's yeah. I'm still shocked that I'm actually got her. And
that's
it was
awesome.
actually my investigator, Seth Talk. She actually reached out to her for me, so I didn't even reach out to her. That was just kind of a surprise. But she agreed to come on. I spoke with her this morning as well through email. But
Yeah, Seb
yeah,
is somebody I would like to have come on our podcast too. I need to
I'm
contact
glad you said
her.
that. I'm
Yeah.
glad you said that. I could completely. I mean, I would completely be fine reaching out to her and seeing about getting her on the show. I actually meant to bring that up earlier. I completely forgot. If y'all are interested in having her on, I could send her an
Absolutely.
email
Yeah.
after we get off.
A
Okay.
MUFON investigator? Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. She's moving up the ranks pretty quick right now, and she's actually about to be speaking at the same MUFON experiencer thing. I believe that Dave Scott's about to be
Yep.
speaking at. She's
I
gonna be there
saw that.
speaking as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can send her a message after we get off. I know she'd probably be more than happy. Well, I know she'd definitely be more than happy to come on whenever she has
It'd be
time to.
awesome.
All right.
We
Well,
have openings. We have openings right now, so whenever she'd
yeah,
want to
she's
come on.
awesome. Yes,
Yeah.
she, she's great. All right, well, it's been really awesome having y'all on here. Time has flown by really quick. Once again, sorry about technical difficulties we had earlier.
That's all right.
Um,
According to the clock in the upper left hand corner, we've still got 2 hours and 23 minutes in. So
yeah, I didn't realize it'd been that long. Yeah, it flew by quick.
yeah.
And thank you for everybody in the chat. And does anybody Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading this. I have video on it. I'm not sure.
Trying to
I
grab
think
it.
Second Star is talking about what was raining on their campsite down in
Yeah,
Texas.
that's what
Oh,
I
That
thought. It
clear
said something about
jelly.
the. Yeah, I was gonna ask if y'all knew what he was talking about. I'm not. I saw that
I've
earlier pop. It said
Uh-uh.
about some
I've
jelly
not been
around.
reading chat for the last few minutes. You guys are awesome. Oh, thanks, Spooky. You're awesome, dude. You are
Yeah,
definitely awesome. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
yeah.
The
Thank
only
everybody
thing I
in
would
the
say
chat.
that if people haven't gone over to our we're trying to get um our count, our numbers up, our subscribers up on our YouTube channel where you can find all of our podcast over there. If people can, just search us, Michigan UFO sightings and paranormal encounters podcast on YouTube and just go hit that subscribe button for us. That would be awesome.
And
And I
then
was
we're
gonna
So,
say
still on all
I'm
the
gonna
other
put.
platforms.
yeah.
I'm gonna put a link to y'all's channel and everything down in the description below after I'm done with this. I was
Yeah,
gonna say
because we
that.
get, for our podcast, we get, thousands of downloads per episode and we're on like 64 different countries and stuff. So we got a lot of people that listen to the
Awesome.
podcast and download it. But if you go over to our because we started the YouTube channel very late in the game, so uh
Yeah, you'll see like 74
no,
followers.
we've got like 94 followers
Hey,
or 94 subscribers. So yeah, we do have a Twitter, but we don't use it very much. I put new episodes out on that.
Y'all
But
on a lot of platforms.
yeah, we're on 14, I think, something like that, 15 platforms.
Amazon was the last one to add.
Yeah, Amazon and Audible. Yeah. So yeah, we're on quite a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Spooky, for that. He said he was gonna tweet your link on UFO Twitter right now. And
Oh, okay, cool.
Cool.
Thank you,
yeah,
Spooky.
I'll definitely update the description down there, and I'll put a link to your YouTube channel and your other links down there below.
Awesome.
But
Hey,
yeah,
thank you.
thanks.
Is that Peppa H? Going to subscribe right
Yeah,
now. Awesome. Thank you
yeah,
very much. We
definitely.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I wrote down what Peppa wrote earlier about
Oh yeah,
this past Tuesday about the rumble in the sky over
yeah.
San
We're gonna
Diego.
research that.
Yeah.
And see if we can get that
Yeah,
into our next
Start digging into
podcast.
that and see
Yeah.
what's
yeah,
going on.
I meant to. Yeah, right here. I heard the sky rumble on Tuesday. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
I
was
think
gonna
he's
look
in.
into it
Did he
myself.
say he's in San Diego? Is that where he's at? So we'll look into that and see what we can find out. Might be an interesting news article, regardless. So
Yeah, I think you did say San Diego.
yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna look into that myself.
isn't
Yeah,
that by
but
Sunny?
rumble. Yeah, here in San Diego, it made the
Yeah.
news. The Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
sunny
wrote it down.
somewhere up there in California.
Yep. Awesome.
All
right,
right, guys.
cool.
Well, it's been awesome having y'all on. I'm like I said, I'll update the description with y'all's links down there. And thank you for everybody who's been in the chat listening to this. Terry Lovelace will be on tomorrow. I'll tell him again that y'all said hi. And
Absolutely.
looking forward
The
to
great
seeing
guy.
y'all again sometime soon. I know I'll be seeing y'all in chats and on other channels too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Josh, I'm sure we'll be chatting here soon. So
Oh yeah, and
we
yeah, and
talk quite a bit.
yeah, and I'll keep y'all up to date with any sightings or videos I get or anything like that.
Absolutely. We can always do a Trippy Times Part 3 on the podcast too.
Yeah, sounds great. All right, well, that's yeah. He said Sonny's in Fresno. Spooky said.
Oh, Fresno, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, it's been awesome having y'all on. I really appreciate it.
Yep.
And,
Well, thank you for having us. Thanks to everybody in the chat.
Yeah, thank you everybody, and I'm sure I'll probably have you on here again sometime in the future. It's nice talking to y'all.
All
Hope
right.
y'all both have a nice night.
See you,
All right,
Josh.
have a good
See
night.
everyone.
See you, everyone.